What's up, you sapphics and blasphemers? Welcome to the human cesspool. Satan loves you, and he values your progress. So, one of the other things Satan values is knowledge. And that's what we're all about, is talking and exchanging ideas. Nothing's off limits, no fruit. We discuss everything. And that's how things should be. Because people get dogmatic about their beliefs. And when you do that, you actually stunt yourself and your ability to reason if you're not willing to confront especially the things that you hold really dear to you. Those should be the things that you go out of your way to confront, because how do you decide what it is you value? So I think that would be a good way to get into the conversation. I got David with me, per the usual, and we got Phillip again with us today. Sorry, last time we did this, it was a little choppy, but thanks for doing it again, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I was really excited. You can tell by the excited sound in my voice. I'm
Yeah,
totally stoked to be here, bro.
especially from the picture too. Like, I can see the enthusiasm on your face. This is a real image of Phillip.
Yes,
Is this
some crazy
current?
numbers.
Like, can you date this picture for us? What were you doing here? Like, what's the
Uh,
context of this
well,
photo?
I was in bikini bottom repping, like a
Yeah,
motherfucker do,
yeah.
and I just decided I wanted to get my picture taken. So I walked up to this motherfucker and was like, "Hey, man, take my picture for me." And then he took my picture, and then I was like, "This is going to the gram." So I put that bitch up.
Hey, that's history, man. And that's a record. Like, that's truly revolutionary art. Your face.
Yeah,
Um,
no,
yeah. So let's just fucking get into it. So I was thinking, this is something, I think I talked about this last week on the podcast a little bit. But there's something I've been thinking about recently. Like, and you can relate to it, Philip, because you're also blind as fuck. But like you and I have a handicap that doesn't matter because we have glasses. Basically, society has allowed this handicap to basically not be an issue anymore with technology, you know? But if you
okay,
think back, like 1,000 years ago, like if you or I were born like 1,000 years ago, you'd just be fucking blind. You can't go fucking catch your food.
yeah, it would be.
So, so you might learn how to do some daredevil shit and like catch your food anyway. You may be able to do that, but the odds of you doing that and the odds of you finding a mate and reproducing are lower than like an able-bodied person, you know?
Correct.
And that's natural selection. So basically, uh, bad genetic traits are weeded out. So you get less obese people, less blind people, less cripples, because they're simply not, in that setting, in a survival setting, they're not reproducing as much as an able-bodied person. But I was thinking,
Right.
like, in today's world, there's nothing holding you back from being blind and living, almost blind and living a totally normal life, because you can get corrective lenses and stuff. Or, like, you can get hearing aids, you know? Like, they
Right.
even have it now where they can, like, I don't know the specifics of it, but they have this, like a rough way to, um, like, for blind people, it's basically like a digital vision. It's not perfect, it's really rough, but it lets them see rough colors, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know the specifics behind that. Anyway, my point is, quality of life is so good now, and we're all so comfortable that we can actually, like, we don't have to worry about natural selection. So we actually are experiencing a curve where we're going to see more bad genetic traits as we see the quality of life improve, you know?
Right.
Anyway, that's what's been on my mind. What do you guys think about that?
Sorry, my mind just went somewhere else for a second.
Hey,
You're not wrong, which is why I mean, I think we've talked about this before, but I definitely am all for like selective breeding and like those movies and TV shows where they control who can have kids and how many kids they can have. Like, I'm totally all for that shit. Like, stop creating physically fucked up kids. Like, just take two healthy people and, make kids from them. Like, it just, you're running your race into the ground by breeding, people with, like you said, bad genetic traits.
In theory, that sounds like what we should do, but the issue just comes as how do you enforce that?
The same way they enforce it, death.
Just kill them if they have children?
Yeah. Don't fucking have kids. If you don't want your kid to be taken away, don't fucking have kids.
so it's not like you're forcing the best genetic people to fuck. It's more like you're forcing the people that would obviously have children with birth defects not to. Is that
Yep.
fair? Okay.
Or at least not to have kids.
Yeah.
So they get their tubes tied and vasectomy and stuff like that, or some sort of contraceptive. I don't know.
So it's not like you're forcefully breeding like two, like animals together or like two people together. It's
No,
like,
I mean, no. You would go about it. So you would take people with, you know, the desired genetic markers, and you would pair them up with someone else and go, this is going to be your mate. Or maybe you let them choose between, a group of other able-bodied, healthy people, and then you just allow them to fuck whoever they want to. And that fuck, you could even have a huge ass orgy. I don't give a shit. Damn, I'd pay to see that. But it's like you got to have healthy people. Like, I have health issues that I know are genetic that I do not want to pass on, which is one of the big reasons I don't want to have a kid. But
I mean, it is a problem. We do have to curb that some way because eventually, like, I imagine it'll be a problem that gets worse rather than better. If it
did that, yeah, exactly. And sometimes you have to do the hard thing that doesn't, you know,
It's forced evolution.
yeah, why not?
I guess at a point though, it's like who decides what are good traits and bad traits.
We
so.
talked about this on a podcast with
Me,
Shirley.
I decide that.
Remember that?
Yeah, but the way we were talking about it there, I think is a little bit different than what Phillip's saying because we were just talking about like you basically have to have a license before you're allowed to fuck, or not to fuck, but to have kids.
No, we were saying even breaking it. We even got it to a point where we were thinking, or I was putting forward maybe even only the best of people should be breeding if what you're trying to do is
like correct the gene pool.
Yeah,
like make it healthier.
And then we pretty much came to a concession where we could say we could at least agree on maybe the worst of the genetic pool and the worst of the worst IQs, even though IQ isn't that great of a indicator of intelligence, even though it works fairly well enough. Anyways, if you use like markers like that to just take, it's like if you have a debilitating, horrible disease and it's genetically transferred through, you probably shouldn't have a child. It's like yeah, you can make an argument, that they were that child and they wanted to live, but I don't know. That's a whole other thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I mean, yeah. Hey, that's one solution. There you go.
But then it's again just how do you enforce it, and then it's like how do you ethically enforce it?
I mean, maybe I was talking out of my ass here. I don't think they do it anymore. But didn't China have a thing where it was like one child per family?
I think they still do have some sort of child child laws where they're only allowed to have so many, if I remember right.
I think it should be more like you can have as many kids if you want as you want if you can prove that you're responsible enough to take care of them. But if you haven't passed the test that says you're responsible, maybe that's not a good idea. I'm actually, Neif, do you mind weighing in on this? Because I know how much of an anarchist you are. What do you think about that?
What's the actual question?
We're talking about regulating, basically having children. That way, stupid people don't have kids, and then.
Well, what you were actually talking about is what boils down to end up being eugenics. And eugenics is where you breed people out, which is what people really mean when they say racism, because the term racism wouldn't really apply to humans, because that would just mean that us as the human race thinks we're above every other creature. Not white, black, brown, that kind of racism. That type of racism is actually a form of eugenics, where you feel like a certain breed of people, a certain people with a bloodline. And that's where you get into the whole race argument. Is it culture? Is it bloodline? Now we're all mixed blooded. None of that matters. You know, everybody's so mixed up, then you're just kind of talking about rebreeding back. I can understand the idea of, yeah, let's not let the quote unquote stupid people, you know, breed. And
The ones that aren't going to take care of their kids,
what you're talking about is very, very communist.
I guess it is.
And very, it's pretty much, you'd have to have a very communist situation to run it, or a dictatorship where you got a leader that just doesn't, he's like, look, I decide if you're good enough or make the cut or not.
That's what's difficult, is someone has to make the decision of who makes the cut and who doesn't.
That's where we get into, when you bring up anarchism, is anarchism basically says, regardless of what little thing that you're talking about, if it involves a third party making the decision between me and somebody else, then it's not right.
See, I guess I'm really conflicted about this, because on one hand, you know, the government shouldn't be able to tell people if they can have kids or not. But on the other hand, it's like there's a lot of orphans and people who clearly shouldn't be having kids get knocked up at 17.
Let me throw one little thing in here before I let y'all take back off on this.
Yeah.
I'll jump out to my tundra speech talk on this one. You know what I'm saying? When I talk about real animal living as an animal human. When you think about intervention of society and government, and you say, well, the problem being is that the government, what you're saying is, instead of the government not allowing it, what they do is the government allows anything to happen. It's not about whether we should regulate it, it's about the government actually allows that. But what the government also allows is people to not be able to work themselves out of these genetic traits and continue to be, basically a harsh way to look at it is, the dumbasses get run over by the herd of elk. So you don't got to worry about them breeding. Mm-hmm. But the government came in and deters that herd of elk and saves the dumbass and says the dumbass has the right to be saved like anybody else, but everybody else is saving their own ass. Well, the government's saying we want to be the people that save the dumbass because he don't have anybody to save his ass, but he has himself. And that's the only way they can get him to vote for him, because he doesn't think other than that.
Yeah.
So I think that on a natural level it would work itself out, because if nobody was saving the dipshits from getting run over by the herd of elk, then they wouldn't grow up, and the dipshits that keep pumping kids out, they wouldn't survive, because they wouldn't be able to teach their kids to not get eaten by the fucking coyote.
Yeah, I guess it's just that sucks for those kids, you know.
Well, and that's, you know, that's where you get into the whole humanity of it. And
yeah.
I mean, anybody that says that should be 100% vegan.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because now you're...
It's kind of a double standard.
Because you're saying, well, but that's all how I feel about humans. That's not all how I feel about everything else except for the cute animals.
Right.
So, c'est la vie.
Yeah, I guess maybe I didn't think about it as much as I had thought I did, but like that sounds very idealistic now that I think about it, because I can't think of any government that I would trust to actually regulate that.
Right.
It's like in theory maybe, but in practice it's like I don't think I trust anyone actually to make that decision.
Besides yourself, right?
Yeah, basically.
So that's why you need to form your own government. In fact, while we're talking about this, I actually found some land in Idaho, and it would be perfect for a compound if you wanted to, move out there and get something started.
How big of an area? Acreage.
30 acres.
30 acres, that's not bad.
Well, it sounds like Neif's on board.
No,
Let's
I'm
fucking
just-
do
I'm
it, dude.
just asking you practicality. That's the first question.
Fuck it, let's move out to Idaho right now, man.
I've got acreage, but not that much.
Let's start a GoFundMe. Come on.
Right.
Would it be worth it to be in fucking Idaho though?
It depends on what's out there, what spot.
Bruh, potatoes.
Oh, dude.
I'm Irish as fuck.
So let's talk logistics of this compound. It's gonna be me,
Alright.
you, Neif, David, all in this, like on 30 acres, like doing what? Just circle jerking. What are we gonna do?
Self-sustained, my guy.
Huh?
We have more than just us too.
Who else
It
gonna be
wouldn't
there?
this is where we get into the
Who's on the approved guest list?
we gotta get people, gotta get followers.
Yeah.
But I
We could
don't.
use Instagram followers, Facebook followers, YouTube followers.
Wait,
We need them all.
You want people from Instagram and YouTube in your
I want everybody, nigga. I'm coming for everybody.
I don't think I want to be there anymore. I'm gonna start a separatist commune on your commune.
Yeah.
Bruh, that's the point. Let's just have a bunch of communes. Everybody can have their own commune, and then we're all our own government.
Set up like 30 different fucking tribes each on an acre, and then we could just like do some Hunger Games shit and just like send out our best to compete. And then
Yes.
whoever the champion is, that village gets all the resources for the year. I like this system.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah, everyone else is the bitch for the year. They just make. And then someone gets to reap all the... Yes.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm here for it.
Sounds like a great hierarchy. I need to implement this system right away.
It's like... I don't know why I just like thought of like the 12 tribes of Israel. It's like all like different sects breaking apart into different tribes, and then those break apart, and then those break apart.
We need to have a holy trinity, but we need to have 5 people in it. Just, and then we just rotate the members around.
That wouldn't be Trinity.
It's the mystery of the Trinity. It's 5, but it's 3. Ooh.
Isn't that Penta?
No, it's
Yeah.
3.
A pentity?
Entity. Did I tell you about, speaking of the Trinity, I was talking to neat guy Sean Kay on the podcast, and we were talking about worship, which is a nice segue because that's something I want to talk about with you. And I was telling him that I've been thinking more about my pantheon recently, and one of my favorite stories or archetypes is Prometheus, because he's the firebringer. He introduces fire to humanity. And Neif actually got me thinking about it in a different way too, that fire is what separates us from other animals, the utilization of fire.
Mhm.
And so I mean there's a lot there, like the god that brought man fire that's very significant. And it's got some parallels to Satan as well, bestowing knowledge onto people. and hidden knowledge, divine knowledge, and letting Satan and Prometheus, they're the ones that give you the keys to your dad's tool shed. They're the older brother that's like, hey, play with this. So it's like, we were talking about the Trinity anyway. Prometheus and the fire and the man who receives the fire make up their own Holy Trinity. There's the one who bestows the knowledge, there's the knowledge itself, and there's the one who receives the knowledge. And I think I worship that whole thing. The mentor, disciple archetype. And I think that's really, there's something really powerful about that for me. David, what do you worship?
I don't know. I feel like that I really reserve that word for something. I don't know. Probably the closest thing I could think of would be maybe art.
That's a great answer. Yeah. When you say art, is it the art itself or the artist, or both?
I would say the art.
The art.
Artistic expression and the art itself.
So that's actually really deep, because you worship something blatantly made by man.
Not necessarily. I mean, it really depends on how much you want to stretch the word art, but
you
I
can
can
say
even
it's
see
divinely inspired or
art
channeled.
in nature, and art in
Okay.
symmetry and geometry.
So actually, so
Maybe I'm stretching the word too far though.
no, that's an interesting topic.
No, really, because art is based on perspective.
Okay, so let's get down into this some more, because that's really interesting. What is art? Because when I think about art, I think it implies intention. It's someone intentfully trying to get a message through to someone. Without intention, is it really art? What do you guys think?
I mean, nothing is done without intention.
So, if you just saw something that looked pretty out in nature, is it really art?
Art. The expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as a painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. 2. The various branches of creative activity, such as painting, music, literature, and dance.
Okay, so by those definitions, it's exclusively human. So, and it's exclusively by design. So, unless you're implying a creator who has sort of human characteristics, then nature wouldn't necessarily be art then.
Well, the Bible specifically says that we're made in God's image anyway. So, I mean, if you kind of follow that sort of whole logic, then we are art in and of ourselves, just like the earth is art, but just from his source.
Maybe I'm splitting hairs here, but that definition said, like, human activity, like human expression. So maybe I'm splitting
human.
hairs here. Maybe
I don't know how heavy Webster got into, like, throwing God in on definitions. Like, well, when God does it, we call it this.
But no, I think it's important, though, to lock down a definition of something. Like, because if we're going to talk about word, it's good, like you just did, to get the definition. That way we're all on the same page about what this means.
It is good to lock down the definition that we're using.
That way we're not dancing around it. It's like we know what the thing is.
Right, you don't want to get lost in semantics.
Right. But I mean, I guess that you could look at that either way. You know, if you believe in a creator, I guess you could say the world is all of its art. If you don't, then I suppose it's not art. Is my understanding of that. So do you think in order for nature to be art, there has to be a creator?
By that definition, I guess so.
But intuitively...
Well, I guess by that definition it wouldn't be either, because God isn't a person.
I think what people mean when they say finding nature, art in nature, it is the human that is seeing the nature as the art. And that's like if you paint something, you know, Bob Ross was probably not necessarily painting entirely out of memory when he was painting those scenes, but he was painting out of memory of what that would look like.
Yeah.
So he was finding art in nature because he was using nature.
It's sort of like saying you find inspiration.
Right.
Okay. Do you feel like that would be a more accurate way to say when people say art in that context? It's more like a poeticism.
Right. It's something
Okay.
that humans find inspiration through.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think we cracked the case on that one. That sounds like we worked out what that is, I think. So, moving on. Phillip, this is a question I've been asking people, and I don't feel like I've gotten an adequate response yet. So, you got to help me here.
I got you.
What do you think would happen if you gave a newborn baby LSD?
I think that it would definitely be fucked up afterwards.
Like
I'm fucked up.
like it's
And
coming out, like
don't.
it's breaching, and then you just hit it with.
I think it might kill it. I think it might go brain dead, go into a coma.
Dang.
I don't think his brain is ready to handle anything near LSD.
So, if it did survive the encounter, if it didn't just fucking have a heart attack.
It would have several third eyes.
Would the fourth eye be a third eye?
It would have 3 sets of 6 eyes.
Damn.
It would just be Satan.
The Antichrist.
Okay. Well, thank you for your answer. I feel like that.
Also, I want to point out that LSD is the letters. You could say Lucifer, Satan, and Diablo.
Whoa. Whoa. Deep, dude.
Real bro.
Dude. The Christians were right, man. Drugs are the devil, dude.
Yep.
That's it, man. They're trying to get you.
Does that include coffee?
Yes, dude. Coffee's Satan.
Coffee is definitely Satan.
Yeah, dude. Possessed. Get that Satan shit out of my face. So, you, before we started, when we were talking before the podcast,
Yep.
You
expressed how bad my feet stink.
Yeah, okay, actually, I was going to say something completely different, but yeah, let's talk about how your feet stink instead.
My feet really fucking stink, man. Could smell them.
Like through your shoes? Do you have socks on or anything?
Bro, no, but I was sitting on the dryer and I could smell my feet from all the way up on the dryer.
I'm sorry, man.
It was pretty.
How long has that been going on?
It's only been going on for like a week, so I'm pretty sure it's stress related.
Oh, dog, you've had smelly feet for like a week? Have you?
Yeah.
Have you been keeping up proper hygiene?
Have I been washing my feet? Yeah, I washed the fuck out of my feet, but like 3 hours later they stink again, and I can't do anything about it. It's a real problem. I should probably see a doctor. Better.
I'm kind of glad you're not giving us any video right now. To be honest with you, I'm afraid I could. If I saw you, I might be able to smell your feet, like through.
You would absolutely. You'd be able to see the fumes.
Okay. Well, thanks for sparing
us
then.
It's like The Sims.
Actually,
really
I wasn't
bad.
gonna talk about your feet. What I was actually gonna bring up was before the podcast. You mentioned you wanted to talk about like say you were doing a spell of some kind. What remind me exactly what it is you wanted to talk about? I wrote a note down, but it was some sort of like countering to spells. Is that what you're talking about?
What?
Before the podcast, when we were bouncing around topic ideas, mentioned fluoride, and then
Oh, fluoride.
after fluoride, you mentioned, you said we don't have to get into it on the podcast if you don't want to, but you wanted to talk about, like countering spell work. Do you not
No.
really not remember this?
That is not what I said.
What did you say then?
That is nothing close to what I said.
That is okay. What did you say then?
I I was talking about uh like the whole worshipers and stuff, like people's belief in your abilities and in your spells, how that would affect you.
Oh. Well.
It's a big subject to talk about. That's why I was saying we could wait.
Right. Well, actually, have you ever seen the anime Umi Nico?
Absolutely not.
I like the way you answered that. Basically, it's about, there's like, so this guy makes a deal with a witch, and he gets like this huge fortune, like all this money, like she just bestows like riches upon him, and then I think part of the contract is when he dies, she gets to reclaim all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So he is getting old now. He's amassed a huge fortune for himself. He has several kids, several grandkids. And he's amassed a huge fortune for himself, and he feels himself getting old and dying. So he calls all his family out to his private island, and he's writing a will, and he's discussing where his belongings are going to go. Well, they're all out on this island, and a storm hits, and no one can get in or off the island. Well, the people start dying, and well, first of all, the granddad dies, the guy who owned all the money. So they start fighting about who's going to get what, because he never finished his will. So then other people start dying, and what you eventually find out, well, one of the grandchildren, who's the main character of the show, he figures out that there's another person besides the family on the island, and she's the one going around killing everyone. She's a witch. She's the one who made the contract with the grandfather. So she's using magic to kill all of this guy's relatives. Well, it has such a strong mental fortitude that he just will not submit to the will of her, let's say, magic dominance. And so because he refutes the idea of magic, he is immune to her spells. So the entire show, she keeps resetting time. Like, she keeps killing his family over, and like, she'll kill his family, then reset time and kill them again in a horrific way. And every time she's making it more elaborate to make him admit that there's no way it couldn't be magic. So she's constantly upping the game, making it more flamboyant, making it more like, how could you possibly do this? It must be magic. Well, even though he sees it take place, he finds these loopholes in his mind where he's like, no, it must have been just a key, like someone had an extra key to the room, that's how they got in. Or he finds ways and logics to make it make sense. And the way the show does it is when he reconstructs a way it could have made sense, that's how it actually takes place. So it's more like the effect before the cause, you know? It's like they're deciding how the murders take place. It's really interesting. Anyway, the reason I brought that up is because the whole show is a cat and mouse game between these two characters, where he's trying to get her to give up, and she's trying to get him to admit that magic is real. So they actually form like this. There's like a romance between them too, like a hate-love kind of thing. And anyway, you were talking about people believing in you. I think if let's say the opposite of that. Let's say you are performing some kind of like putting some kind of negative energy out, like a hex or some kind of like sympathetic magic, like a voodoo doll or something, and someone is aware that you're doing that, and they concentrate in their own mind that, like, they're just like, oh, you aren't shit, you're just playing with a toy, like what you're doing has no effect on me, and they tell themselves that. It might be a sort of anti-magic, where because you don't believe in it, it reduces or negates the effect of it. It's sort of a competition of will. So to look at that on the polar end of it, that means you could also collaborate with people, like where you all collectively agree that something takes place and that makes that thing stronger, like a group ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see there were some declassified CIA documents talking about chakras and astral projection? Did you see that?
No.
Basically, since the 70s, the CIA has been doing tests with DMT and astral projection and a bunch of trippy shit, and it all got declassified. So there's like a 29-page, what is that called, a dossier? Like a
Oh,
breakdown.
yeah. I know what you're talking about. I remember this now.
Yeah. Well, in that, they talk about how they would get like groups of like 14, 15 agents at a time to go in and be ambassadors, and they're basically going to another realm and cutting deals with off-world, off-realm entities, like outside this dimension. And they're brokering deals with these things for exchanges of different kinds, information, technology, whatnot. And he was talking about how the reason they travel in such big groups is because when you have a bunch of different when you have a collective force like that, they're stronger together and they can push out unwanted entities. So if you came across something unsavory that you didn't want to talk to, you could actually push it away that way, because you're it's like a wolf in a pack rather than a lone wolf.
Right.
You're much easier to pick off by a bigger creature if you're alone, but if there's 20 of you, that's a little harder to do.
Yeah.
So whatever it is that they're encountering, they're afraid of it to the extent that they send in a whole bunch of people, like a whole fucking unit.
So do they just have to be in proximity to each other to enter into the same trip? Or is there some sort of channeling that they do?
The way they laid it out in that thing I was reading is it's like they'd all be in a room together, and then they'd all focus on a point. It's like the coordinate that you go to is a mindset. So you all get on the same page about what you're trying to do, and then you have a collective hallucination in a different place, and all experience the same thing, is the idea. I think, so it's another, that's another thing I was talking to Sean about on the podcast, is like, when you have, who's to say that there is no difference between like a fifth dimension and like your imagination, that those two things are the same thing. So what you imagine is real, and there is no separation between what you imagine to be true in that level. You know what I mean? It certainly could be. So when we're doing these sort of these mental gymnastics talking about whether you're communicating with a spirit or if you're experiencing schizophrenia or a form of hypnosis, it may be as simple as those are the same thing. Like they're,
How do you mean?
like, what takes place in the mind is the fifth dimension. Perhaps.
I don't know enough about physics to.
Well, I don't think
to
anyone
comment on
does. So it's not like it's like hypothetically. It's both not improvable, it's not falsifiable, and it's not necessarily provable either, you know? But I guess what I'm getting at is maybe, you know, this group of CIA agents are going to another dimension and talking to aliens. Or maybe they're just all tripping balls and they're having a little collective, hallucination where they're, you know, agreeing upon hallucinations, affecting each other's hallucination. Or there's no difference between the two things. That's just the same thing. Anyway, but I mean, who knows? And that's what's interesting about like the chaos magic approach is not giving a fuck. Like it doesn't really matter what's going on. What matters is results you can achieve. So, yeah, I mean, like, not that Crowley was specifically a chaos magician. He had a different, you know, way of looking at things. But one thing I think he would have been in agreement with, like, with someone like Peter Carroll, is like, he talked about how trying to understand the mechanics of the universe is how people go mad. He's like, I gave up trying to understand how these things work a long time ago. These are the tools I have available to me and I'm utilizing them. So I guess that's sort of a Thelemite approach too, a Thelemic approach. You know, the Thelema being Crowley's cult of Thelema, Abbey of Thelema. So I ranted about that for a while. Did you have something you wanted to add to that, Phillip? Like the collaborative magic or anti-magic?
If I did, I forgot about it.
Sorry.
No, you're straight.
But I feel like, did that answer your question? Like, I think.
So what I was more so talking about is so like let's say you had a person that you were particularly close to, and you know, obviously, if you were close to them, you know, they would know about, you know, the magic stuff. Obviously, that would be something that you would get into with them. So like, let's say they put faith in your work. Does that make you stronger?
Well, I think the way you worded it, they're putting faith in your work, not in you. So it makes your work stronger. I think if what you mean is they put faith in you, then yes, that does make you stronger. I mean, think about a family unit, you know? It's like if you have like a supportive wife or a girlfriend, that does make you stronger. That makes you like it, you know, that's why that's why people congregate together, because we're stronger together, you know? Like it's like a wolf pack. It's like you sort of like nurture each other's weaknesses, or not nurture them, but like you lean on each other and you play off each other's strengths, and that's what a team is. So I think anyone who gets behind you and supports you, yeah, that absolutely makes you stronger. What do you think?
I'm not sure yet. I have to try to find someone. I'm trying to find an easily moldable person to be my to be
Whoa.
my first official worshiper.
I
I'm
don't know
not
if that's
even
how it
kidding.
works,
I'm
man.
working on someone right now.
I don't think you pick your own worshipers. I think they have to pick you.
Not necessarily.
Is that how that
I mean,
works?
you have to know. It's actually uh, didn't didn't Yahweh decide that the Abrahamic line was his?
Did Yahweh decide what?
That the Abrahamic line was his? Like
Yeah, he
he
said.
decided that they were his people, and he
He said your children are gonna carry my seed,
he
bitch.
took it.
So he said to David and
So
Abraham.
so all I got to do is provide myself to this person, mold them into what I need them to be, and then there we go. Good.
Well, all right. Let me know how that goes for you.
Thanks. I
So,
will.
um, it was really random. You asked me about fluoride before the podcast. Was what brought that up?
Uh, just because we had already had a discussion about about drinking water, and you were saying that fluoride impedes your your third eye somehow.
Yeah, it calcifies your pineal gland. Um, and it's in tap water. It's in toothpaste. What else is fluoride in?
That's in quite a lot of things. If I remember right, I think they use a derivative of. I think they invented. I might be wrong on this. I could be just confabulating this in my memory, but if I remember right, they invented fluoride in Nazi Germany for something, and they used that alongside Zyklon gas in the gas chambers. So when you actually go in to take a shower, and you turn on the shower and it's hot and steamy, that's actually vaporizing the water along with the fluoride, and you're sitting in a mild gas chamber pretty much every time you take a shower without a filter.
Shit. Well, like that's something I didn't know anything about, the pineal gland or fluoride until my
Also, this is a bit of a tangent, but Zyklon gas was what Hitler used for the gas chambers. It's interesting if you actually follow Hitler up to that point. He was like obsessed with cleanliness. He started out in the factories, like cleaning out all the bugs, like fixing everything up, and that's what they used to kill all the pests and the rodents with, was Zyklon gas and Zyklon chemicals. And then he often referred to Jews as pests or rats in his literature and his speeches, so you could see how just how warped he got in his mind. That anyways, that was a weird tangent.
No, that's interesting. Fluoride. So
Yeah.
that's something that I didn't even know what a pineal gland was until my adult life. Like when I started getting into hippie shit.
Look what he's got pulled on screen there.
Oh, fuck yeah. But that's now I hear about it all the time. Like people talk about how bad fluoride is for you. But Stanley Kubrick's first movie, or maybe his first, what do you call it when a film student has films and then they get a actual film, what's that called? It's like they have short films and then they actually
movie.
Anyway, one of Stanley Kubrick's first movies, or his first movie, I can't remember.
Premiere.
Yeah, I guess it's his premiere, his I think it was like his first big budget movie at least. Was Doctor Strangelove. Have you seen that, Neif?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if you hadn't. So it's a black and white movie from the '60s, and there is a general. And he's so fucking funny. It's a comedy first and foremost, and it's actually one of Kubrick's best movies. If I don't know, maybe his best. I really like The Shining, but that one's like really dear to me too. But it's a comedy, and it's to this day one of the funniest movies ever made. And there's a part in it where there's basically this general has orders not to give anyone the launch codes. And there's this guy who's trying to get the launch codes, and he's not giving it to him.
You're kind of a little bit off of what it's really about.
Oh, yeah, I got off tangent. Thank you, Neif. Anyway, a character in this movie from the '60s is talking about fluoride and how bad it is for you and how it calcifies your pineal gland. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, this is in the '60s. So, I mean, I don't know if that's Kubrick is just way ahead of his time, or if this was common knowledge in the '60s, and nothing's been done about it. I guess maybe people don't understand the gravity of it, or not enough people understand it. You know, I don't even understand how much it hurts you.
Well, I think there's more of an awareness that's kind of coming out. There's a lot more reverse osmosis water people are drinking, and BPA-free waters is a big one. A lot of people are getting filters for their kitchen sinks. So even for your shower heads, you could just change the shower head out, and it'll be a fluoride-free filter. And actually, there's lead and all kinds of nasty chemicals in your water too. That's just as bad or worse than fluoride.
Yeah, they use it in toothpaste as a whitener and a cleaner, but there are other ways and other chemicals that can clean your teeth.
Yeah,
that don't have
activated charcoal is really good.
That's what you use, right, Phillip?
Bleach or charcoal?
Bleach.
David said charcoal. I thought me and you were just talking about toothpaste, so I thought.
Oh yeah, I do use the charcoal toothpaste.
Yeah, I mean,
makes your mouth look really cool.
Honestly, we should get one of those shower heads too, because
yeah,
I think it's enough of a thing that it's.
And we have an old house too, so it's probably got all nasty, rusty lead pipes and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, we talked about fluoride. I don't really have much else to say about that. Do you have anything you want to add in, Phillip?
No.
Okay. Let's see here. I was gonna bring up what's going on in Lebanon right now, but I don't even really have any much commentary to add on it really at this point. Did you see what's going on?
Are you referring to the bomb?
Yeah.
Yeah, I scrolled past that because I didn't care. Oof. I mean, I'm sorry, but it doesn't affect me in any sort of way. It sucks that it happened, but I don't know. I got too much other shit to worry about than people in Lebanon.
Fair enough. I mean, there's a lot of bad shit going on in the world. You can't.
I gotta watch my back going to the corner store every time a cop car passes. So I am sorry. Their problems are gonna have to wait.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what's going on in our country.
What the fuck is going on?
What is your history with the police, actually?
My history with the police is that I've been treated like a white person.
Okay.
And so I've never really had a problem with cops. And for the most part, I actually don't really so much fear police officers. There are a couple times here where I have been a little wary. I've also stopped when I've seen other black people get like pulled over and stuff like that, or if I see, you know, cops around, other black people, I'll watch and basically get my phone ready to start videotaping if I need to or anything like that. But we haven't had anything crazy happen here as far as that's concerned. Our protesters were really, really tame, which was kind of weird for the fact that it's
Michigan.
kind of a ghetto place. But they were really tame and everything was fine. Honestly, the mask thing is worse for us than the racism. Like people not wearing masks and like wanting to get into fights over masks and like, technically we're supposed to be calling the cops on people not wearing them. And the cops aren't even enforcing anything or not wearing masks themselves. So it's like stupid.
Enforced its first one today.
What?
Nashville enforced its first one today.
Someone got arrested for not having a mask on?
Yep. Repeated the requests. They asked him to do it, and then they saw him again later on in the same area. He looked like he might have been homeless, but I can't say. I didn't look that far into it. They charged him with, from what was explained to me by a former officer, I think he's a former officer, that I think they're going to charge him with failing to follow an executive order, which is, he said, is very similar to assault.
Huh.
So, I don't know. But he said if he can produce medical reason why, they'll drop the charge. But I thought that wasn't necessary. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't question our objective judicial system.
This is kind of a hard segue, but I just remembered something. I wanted to. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I got it right here. Hold up.
Yeah, people aren't really upholding the masks here that well either. I went to downtown Nashville for work today, and I'd say 75% of people didn't have their masks on, and maybe 25 did. The numbers keep fluctuating up and down, but here lately people are wearing them less.
Yeah.
I wear my mask whenever I go in somewhere. Right, unless like I don't have it.
Yeah, I think
I usually have at least one in my car though.
I think a mask is like a fair precaution, but I think people
Overblow it.
like if they're gonna be that worried about it, maybe they should just wear gloves too, because you're like it's COVID supposedly stays on hard surfaces for like 2+ days or something like that. It dies within the air within like a few minutes. So it's like you could get it either way, but if they're going to go hardcore on the mask, you'd think more people would be worried about transferring it that way as well.
Well, if I remember correctly, they came out saying that it dies when it's not on the surface of stuff too. So transmitting it by touching something someone else has touched, unless you touch their direct like spit or something, then you should be okay. So wearing gloves is not really like a huge safety. It's not really going to protect you from anything. Whereas the mask is more so to keep, the transmission of spits and, other bodily fluids, out of each other's faces, which is like the thing that I don't understand. People that are like, well, if your mask works, why do I have to wear mine? Well, I don't fucking want your stuff all over me anyways. I wish you would wear a mask 100% of the time, you inbred motherfucker. Look, it's just...
Yeah, I just don't like looking at you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I hope that this is the new normal, so I don't have to see people's faces.
That way I don't have to see your stupid fucking face.
Exactly.
So,
I'm a germaphobe that didn't really like going anywhere anyway.
So, Let me hit you with this, Phillip, because I saw this the other day and I think it's really interesting. This is from a philosophy meme page. Okay?
Okay.
Alright? It's a poll. You know,
Okay.
like getting people's thoughts on a thing. So, it's a yes or no. I want to know what you think about this too, Neif. Okay. If person A steals all of person B's money and gives it to person C, does person C have a moral obligation to give the money back to person B, even if person C did nothing wrong himself?
No.
Well, the tricky thing in there is the term moral obligation. That depends on that person's personal morals. Because that's what a moral obligation is.
So that's really interesting. So it's like, I don't know, is he obligated?
I mean, it's
That's
kinda
up to
like-
him.
It's kind of like a right. People get rights confused with something the government gave us when it's not. The Constitution doesn't give us the right. It recognizes these rights that exist. And I always used to say, no one ever gave anyone the right to grant anybody a right in the first place. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of the same concept.
So, Phillip,
Is somebody obligated? Nobody's obligated to do a goddamn thing.
Right.
so if I stole all your shit and gave it to David, you wouldn't expect David to give it to you?
Absolutely not. I would expect you to get my shit back from David and give it back to me. And I'd be standing next to you the whole time while you're getting my shit back from David.
And what if I refuse? This is my shit now.
Well, then Alex is gonna have to fight you for your new shit, or I'm gonna fight him.
Oh, okay.
But not David, though.
Yeah.
No, David did nothing. He's
the
not
victim.
involved in this. This is between you and me.
Okay, I got you. So, David, what do you think about that hypothetical?
Like how far
Well, David's got all the shit.
No, without it being...
That's a good point, because when you think about it, if he does give it back to him, then you never suffer a consequence for your theft.
Oh, so justice is never served.
And you're like, oh, that's cool, because he just gave it back to him anyway. I'll just go steal the shit again. Fuck that one.
Yeah, that the thief never learns anything in that scenario. There's no justice. Yeah, true. So, do you think person C is morally obligated to return the belongings?
I guess to default back to what he was saying about moral obligations and that, what do you really mean by that? But if you're going by, and it's also how far removed from the situation are they? Is it like a very direct, if it's a situation like, oh, I stole your things and gave it to someone else, are they obligated to, give it back to you?
I mean, we all done bought some stolen shit. Everybody done bought some hot shit from the, street sales rep.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't asking why that shit only cost you about a third the price.
Mm-hmm.
Is this like would like, do we owe Native Americans reparations for what the colonists did and took from them during the colonization period?
Do we, like me and you?
Like, I guess this is what I'm trying to get to your question. How direct are you saying is it? Or at what... having a hard time phrasing this.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
It's also, you and I talked about this a little bit before we came over here and kind of unwrap that a little bit. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let me get the rest of this out.
Okay.
So this was a poll, and 65% of people said yes, that person C is obligated to return the belongings. 35% said no, which I thought was interesting.
I would like to know the data on everybody that they asked and their religious stance,
Yeah. So
Right.
here's
and also their political stance.
yeah.
True.
Because what you're doing is admitting that you need the state to enforce, or someone to enforce that for you. You can't deal with it yourself. Someone should be obligated outside of themselves, outside of your ability to obligate them. You should feel obligated. Our standard set of morals by the state.
Yeah. So that guy did a follow-up question after that poll. And the follow-up question was, do you think descendants of slave owners in the United States owe reparations to descendants of slaves? And that one got 41% yes, 59% no. He captioned these two things together to make a point where he's calling people hypocrites. He's saying, you'll admit that person C has a moral obligation to return what was given to him, but when you give it the context of slave reparations, you wanna go back on that. So that's
Right.
the point he was going for. However, it's not that black and white in my opinion, because like what David was just talking about, you are talking about things that happened to other people, and that doesn't mean that people are not feeling the consequences of the past. But if we're assigning blame to things, you can't expect someone who is innocent to pay for the crimes of someone who came before them. At least in my opinion, that's not justice.
Yeah, that's like saying, are you morally obligated to answer to the people whom your ancestors oppressed, essentially?
Right.
And so, and then even a more simple example was like, well, if Hitler had a child and he was raised separately and he was a good, law-abiding citizen, should you now inflict Hitler's oppression onto him and say, well, you need to answer for all the things your dad did and it's time for you to pay back? It's like, well, no, he didn't really do that. He's just happened to be Hitler's son by chance.
Hitler's low child that, nobody knew
Yeah.
about. He got born somewhere else. And
Yeah.
never knew.
Yeah, he's probably like, fuck my dad, I hate him.
He's like, I never knew my dad. They told me my last name was Hister.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the whole reparations thing, Phillip?
I don't think that any one or any individual owes anybody anything as far as that's concerned. Like, I don't look to white people and go, well, you're white, so you owe me something. David's white, so he owes me something.
Yeah, David
It's
is
not
white
like
and he
that.
owes me something too.
I do think that now, as far as what David had brought up, the thing about the Native Americans, in that instance, I definitely think that the Native Americans deserve their shit back, like 100%. And even if that comes down to I have to leave where I live, I don't care, because I don't own this land, and I never did own this land.
Well, then the
It
Native
was
Americans only owned the land because they colonized it after crossing the Bering Sea Bridge as well. So it's just how far back do you want to roll back the clock of which country dominated the other country, which people took over the other people. It's a constant. As far back as time stretches, it's colonization
I
and
can see the
taking over
difference
tribes.
in what he's saying, though, because what you're looking at with those that are slave descendants, what was quote-unquote taken from them was not land they already had. They were quote-unquote enslaved. and you can get into the whether or not they were removed or sold or whatever, but they were enslaved. Whereas the indigenous people that lived here on what was in essence their home already, and they were driven off. But
Right.
you know, then that goes back to the treaties. You know, a lot of the chiefs of some of those tribes made shitty deals, and not every tribe over here was absolutely peaceful and everything cool. Everybody, you know, people like to, I'm Native American blooded saying this too, but it's people often talk about, well, the Europeans came over and they saw everybody as savages. And at the same time, it's like that while that wasn't true, it wasn't entirely the opposite. They didn't come over here and see fucking utopia and say, fuck this utopia. No, the natives here were broken up into many, many tribes, and it was a huge nation already. But they had wars. They enslaved each other. Some tribes enslaved people. There was horrific shit that some of those tribes did. And then when these settlers showed up with better technology as far as weapons, well, you got this tribe over there that's been kicking your ass for the past 300 years. And these white dudes showed up on these big ships that you're like, well, first off, we ain't built no ships like that. Damn, they got all kind of shit. Hey, the holler at them, and then that fucking tribe comes to kick your ass, you got fire sticks. And they're like, holy fuck, now, so that's what people don't really understand. And just like the Europeans, people are like, it wasn't a bunch of rich Europeans that are like, let's go over there and take free land from these. Most of them were slaves, indentured servants, criminals, people on the run. They were under the king's thumb. Get the fuck out of here and go till our new land. What new land? You're about to go discover it. Well, we don't know what is what exactly. You go figure it out. I'm a fucking king. I'm not going over there and die.
That's what you do.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
Until we said, fuck all that nonsense.
Yeah. No taxation without.
And the issue with paying reparations, I feel, because like Neif was saying, what was taken from from black people was their freedom and their integration, their natural integration into society, along with white people. Which, when you talk about natural integration, that there wouldn't have more than likely have been any for a while, because black people didn't, they pretty much stayed to themselves for the most part in Africa. Lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my.
Bears too?
But if they hadn't been brought here, then more than likely they wouldn't be here. So when it comes to giving back to black people now, it becomes a question of what do you give them? Because we're free, quote unquote free. We're not slaves anymore. So if that's what you want reparations for, then in my opinion, that's already been paid. You have your freedom now. You've been given back what was taken from you. So what more do you need? Now, I will admit that there are certain things that not necessarily every white person has, but just knowledge that black people don't grow up learning because we were never taught these things. Certain things about finances, or how how certain systems work, things like that aren't predominantly spread in black circles as common knowledge. These are the sorts of things that black people need to be given a given knowledge of. And it's, I've heard my family members say, you need to at least make sure you have one white friend. Like, and
That's fucked up.
it's because if you have at least one white friend, you know that you have at least one person in the world who knows the way that the world works and who society and the government is going to look at. And they're not going to say, we're going to put this person down because of their skin color. You have an ace in the hole.
Who told
So
you that?
that's
Your mom?
why, huh?
Who told you that? Your mom?
No, my aunt actually has said that, and my dad has also said that.
Huh.
I've been that one white friend.
Like, and it's really things are still somewhat segregated, and things are not exactly necessarily black and white anymore. There are a lot of white people who struggle just as much as black people.
I think it's
There
a
are also a
class
lot of
thing.
black people who don't struggle at all and
Yeah.
who have never struggled.
These days,
It's
it's a
not like,
class thing. It's about poor and the rich.
right. And the thing is I think I saw it on Facebook, but I saw something that was like saying how it's not really about race, but the people in charge will keep using race
Right.
because it's an easy fire starter and it's easy to use to cover up things like police brutality,
Right.
rich and the poor,
That's exactly
things like
right.
that.
Yeah.
I think that kind of goes back to what I was going to talk about when you're bringing up the difference in the reparations as far as, you know, how you're saying it's already been paid. And that's definitely a great point, and I agree with that. It has a lot to do with the land thing, because it could be argued that life, the common life for somebody in any standard city in Africa, is not going to be anywhere near the opportunistic life here in America.
Mm.
So the opportunity still there lies, and that tying into what you're saying about the usage of it. And that is wherein lies the root of what we have going on and have had going on since the beginning. There was a time right after slavery was outlawed when the average black family was doing quite well,
Mm-hmm.
and politics found that that is a hotbed subject. And just like the idea of lifestyle being better or worse here, the government has used both patriotism by saying, well, we have a better lifestyle than anybody here, by giving us a better situation than everybody, but in turn giving themselves a better situation and allowing them to be much more underhanded. So they have to keep us divided on these base root things like that.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things they do. They use the minority or black populace because it buys, when you are taking care of someone and you're saying, when you see them coming up, all right, they came out of slavery and okay, they're doing pretty good now. We can't let that happen because now they're going to not feel like they need us. Like the rest of the population that's really highly against the government. We're highly against government as people. To be a patriot
Right.
is truly to be against the fucking government. People don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Our Constitution, all that shit was written by dudes that fucking despised government. They hated government,
Yeah.
they hated banking, they hated all of that shit. They were trying to get away from that. They saw it going on in monarchies and all over the fucking world.
Right.
That's why most of them said, if this gets too big, we gotta tear it down. Tell these motherfuckers, give the people a power to tear this shit down.
Yeah.
And they realized fast, when all the powers that be, getting fat off taxes, realized, look, if we want to sit where we are, there's no way we can let the people in on this.
Yeah. We
So
got to break it.
we see this group rising up. We have to pull them down to make them feel like they need us. Because the standard white American doesn't want to pay taxes, doesn't want to do shit for the government, wants the government to fuck off and let them do what they want. And the only thing we have to bind with those people is a church.
Mm-hmm.
You end up with conservatives and liberals. And that's how you break the populace with conservatism and liberalism and base it around religion, non-religion, race, supremacy, and all these different weird ideals that have nothing to do with politics.
Any way you can distract the people
Exactly.
and not let them unify against you.
And you can figure
Right.
out how to gain the vote in a democracy, which democracy is mob rule. And like I always say, and people hate it, lynching is pure democracy in action.
That's the mob taking action into their own hands.
Right.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, I mean, expanded. Yeah, really.
It is.
true.
A lynching is pure democracy to its root core. Political, straight, driven through violence. The majority decided against the whatever. The judge decided you were not guilty, you walked out free. The rest of the town decided you were still fucking guilty and they hung your ass.
Yeah.
They outruled the judge. They outnumbered them. There wasn't enough people to save you from the mass of people that came against you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why no government works, and we should all just do our own thing and fuck off.
Yeah. We can wrap up here pretty soon, Phillip. There's one more thing I wanted to get into. When you write, and I want to expand this to David and Neif too, but when you write, what is your process like? When do you find the motivation to sit down and write something?
I don't. All of it just happens.
Okay. Does that spark event is it like you're just jotting shit down on your phone at work, or?
So if I'm at work, because I do such mindless stuff, I will just hear words, basically. I'll hear a phrase or something, and then I'll be like, okay, well, that had some sort of rhythm to it, and then I will just keep writing to that, and that's basically how I write anywhere. When I'm at home and I can have like an actual, like get music and stuff up, then if I hear these things, I will put them down and then form the rest of the song around it with music and all that. But obviously, it's the same process as when I'm at work, just without having the ability to actually like put music to it.
Do you practice spitting it?
Say again?
I said, do you practice spitting it or do you just write it?
No, I practice it. Yeah, I practice it out loud, and that's actually something that I've run into some issues with. I'm actually trying to stop smoking, like trying to stop smoking cigarettes, because it is heavily impeding my lung capacity.
Yeah.
And that shit is getting really annoying, not being able to breathe halfway through my through my bars, because I'll never be able to perform any of this shit if I can't, if I can't do it.
You build
Doesn't
beats,
matter
or
if
you
I
just
can
pull
read it.
stuff down.
Neif wants to know if you make your own beats or if you just work off of something.
I pull off of YouTube. I just search free copyright free beats on YouTube, just because I don't know anybody. I would like to make my own beats. I would just have to get software for that and all that
You can get
before I
like
could get
FL
into that.
Studios or something like that.
I'll get with you and help you out with all that, brother.
Yeah.
Seems legit.
Neif's the guy to talk to.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Neif,
oh, go ahead.
So I was gonna say, so you know, for that instance, and I mean, even you yourself, you know, basically just send me send me something, and if I can write to it, I will immediately be able to tell you if I can write to it or not.
Yeah. I'm
If I hear
yeah.
something and I can't write to it, I'll know.
The way I do
So,
it is I'll have something stirring in my head for like a couple days, and I'll like write down a bar like a just a line or two, and it's like I like that, and then I'll build something else off of that, and then like, but for me it's about I'm not I'm not in the business of like making a lot of content. Like when it comes to my art, I spend a lot of time on just a couple of lines and perfecting it and like getting it the way I want it. You know, it's like
hmm
just polishing it. Um,
yeah,
like if I put something out, it's because I've put a lot of thought into it, and um, I've already like tailored it down to the way I want it, and like a lot of the stuff I make isn't very long for that reason because I like to short and sweet to the point. That's just the way. That's just my writing style, I guess.
yeah.
Neif, what is your writing process like?
Um,
Lyrically, musically, or both? However you want to get into it.
usually, well, I haven't written. I used to write a lot of poetry when I was younger, and then when I played music, and I would just write music. But I didn't really become a songwriter until my 20s. And the way that was taught to me was I had been overthinking everything. It's not to write a good song, not necessarily, and I didn't mean commercially viable, but I mean a good song that somebody's not just going to be like, this is prog rock. This is too demanding for me to get my head around. You know. You kind of have to dumb it all down and go base, which is really good because you're really much more easily getting feeling across. You know, when you're trying to do intricacies and stuff, yeah, it's great, but the feeling, you're like, what feeling is that I'm feeling? But when somebody's just crooning over like 3 chords, you're like, all right, I know what you're feeling. I know what you're telling me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of one of those things where I really had to, I say dumb it down, but I only mean pull my mind out of it a lot more and put more of my spirit or my heart into it, and just really kind of, you know, the woman that taught me mostly about songwriting told me it doesn't matter what you are saying, word-wise or anything, as long as what you're saying is the truth, or it feels like the truth to you, you know, not meaning like it's factual, but
It's real.
it is real, it is true, you're not telling a lie with what you say, then it will come across the way it needs to, and that's what people pick up on, you know, and that's where you get into like if something's contrived or commercial, it might be funny or cool or whatever, but you're not really feeling it. You can appreciate it, but you're not feeling it, you know.
It's like, oh, this is an industry hit designed to be on the radio.
And it's like, that's why a commercial is funny. A commercial song can be funny, but you're not like jamming it. You're not like, oh man, this really touches me. You're like, this is hilarious, dude. Did you hear this? Which has got its own place, but my personal way I go about it is usually lyrically, if I'm writing a song, I'll have a line or two. I'll have something, a hook line, something, or an idea, a phrase that I try to expand on, you know. And sometimes I'll dig through if I'm really trying to write something, I can dig through my old poetry, and I'm looking at it and I think it's horrible, but I'll find 1 or 2 lines in there that really sound cool, or sound not so hokey or whatever, and I can just try to expand off that and say, what did I mean by that? What could somebody think I mean by it? What does that really mean? Or whatever. And then depending on where that's going, that depends on how the song's going to sound. And I don't necessarily always write songs to sound the way that you think they should lyrically.
Okay.
Sometimes I do things odd to be, and that's part of it. It's me being sardonic.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sardony in my music. There's a lot of, it's very serious, but at the same time, it's got a very, like, reminding you that this is all, life is a big fucking joke.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
You can
that's
take this as serious as it's gonna go, but really, man, you know, I'm just over here banging away and telling you some fucking shit on my guitar.
and that's funny because that's accurate to you. That's very authentic. Yeah. Well, Phillip, thanks for joining us, man. Is there anything else you want to say before we close up?
Free my nigga 42 Doug. Shout out to them niggas on the west side.
What? Who's 42 Doug?
The hottest rapper out Detroit. What you mean?
Oh, I guess we could briefly talk about Punani for a second.
Oh, let's talk about Punani.
So, what do you? All right. Poor Neif is out of the loop here, but I don't feel too bad for him because he's not missing out on much. What do you find appealing about this song? Because I'm having a hard time finding anything appealing about it.
I absolutely. You said it was better than Gooba.
That doesn't mean it's good.
I don't think it's
Gooba's
better than
fucking
Gooba.
trash.
I like the hook.
If you can call it that.
I like the hook.
His song or what?
No, I wouldn't be going on in this art if it was Phillip's song. No, it's an artist Phillip likes that I don't, and we just.
Is it on YouTube?
Yeah, we can find it and pull it up real quick.
Okay, let's get this clear. I don't like Tekashi, but I do like Gooba, and I definitely can bump Punani. Punani's hook is what drew me in.
Yeah, just type in Punani.
I like all of
That's a
Gooba.
Tekashi. No, you don't, Neif. No, you don't. Yeah. I'm sorry, Phillip. I know you care, but
Hey, whatever. Not everybody can appreciate every form of art.
no, Phillip. So Phillip showed me this song, and he's like, "You gotta check this shit out." And I'm like, "Oh, what's this?" And I pull it up, and it's a fucking new Tekashi song, and I'm like, "Oh, god damn it! I am not drunk enough for this." So I start playing it, and the song's called Punani, and it's like, nasty, 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 Punani, 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 and then it's just a fucking sausage fest. There's like 30 dudes, and it's just like him and his squad. There's not a single girl anywhere, but the song is just all about pussy. And I'm like, what? I'm getting mixed signals here. What is?
Right. Well, I'm gonna ask you, with such as heavy of weight as I'm gonna ask Phil when I ask all of you this. Do you know anything about the term punani?
Well, I mean, educate me if I'm missing something.
I'm not gonna go into it here. We don't have much time.
Maybe not.
This is something that y'all can look up.
Is this the next time we get on the podcast? We have a serious discussion.
Phil, my man, you there?
Yep.
Do you know the origins or anything about the term punani?
I assumed the term Punani was some language for pussy.
That's
okay, right, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if you know any etymology or history or anything like that.
What is that, Puerto
Nope.
Rican?
I don't know jack shit about Punani. I don't even know jack shit about pussy. I don't get enough of it to know anything about it.
Shiitake mushroom.
I guarantee you, Shiitake, 96, probably doesn't either. I mean, he does probably by now when his fucking producer came and told him. I was like, dude, really? So,
Shiitake 96.
Actually, you, Phil,
That's the name of this episode.
I want you to, yeah, that's my homework for y'all.
Punani. All right, I'm on it.
And anybody out there watching.
You know what?
I will happily Google Punani.
Next time we get together like this, we'll talk about whatever it is. We'll do our homework. Impress Neif.
But, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we talked about that. I don't think that needs any more acknowledgement at all. So,
No.
See you next time, Phillip.
Yeah.
Everyone, have a good night. Thanks for sticking around with us.
Penguins are gay.
Well, that's a personal choice of theirs, and you have no right to judge them for it.
I'm not judging them for it. I'm just saying they're gay. Nothing wrong with being gay. I'm just letting you
I
know
guess
that
I shouldn't
penguins are
assume that
gay.
you were judging them for it. It's just I felt like some anger behind what you said.
Anger? No, there's definitely no anger at the fucking flightless birds. Like, who even, like, why did they even bother calling themselves birds at that point? They don't fucking
All
fly.
right, you know what, man? Like we were having a good talk until you started talking all this shit about penguins, and now like I don't know how I feel, man. So I think I'm just gonna go.
Well, you can't go anywhere.
No, I'm leaving. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, well, then I'll just talk to Neif and David.
What? You're just gonna do this without me? You guys just gonna carry on
Yep.
after I leave? All right. I see how it is.
Yeah, see you, Alex.
Okay, bye. Well, have a good night, world. David can do the outro.
Goodbye, world.
All right.
Space.